The mug was still warm when I heard her whisper it. Don't come near me. It wasn't shouted. It wasn't panicked. It was quiet. Controlled. Like she'd rehearsed it. She hadn't seen me standing behind the door. She thought I'd already left for the office, same as every Tuesday. But I doubled back. Forgot my tablet on the kitchen counter. Funny how something so small can expose everything. I didn't even mean to eavesdrop. I was halfway into the room when her voice froze me. I'll tell him eventually, she said. Pause. He's still clueless. Silence. Then a giggle I hadn't heard in months. Soft. Flirty. Not meant for me. I stayed behind the pantry door, still holding my travel mug. My fingers had gone numb around it. My name never came up, but I knew who she was talking about. I was the one who'd filled that mug an hour earlier. I was the one she used to giggle with. I leaned just enough to peek. She was barefoot, curled up in my hoodie on the bar stool, twirling a spoon in her oatmeal like she didn't just nuke my entire reality. Her phone was on speaker, face down. I stepped forward. Floor creaked. She turned fast, eyes wide like I'd caught her mid-crime. What was that? I asked. My voice was calm, but it felt foreign, like it belonged to someone else. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. No denial. No explanation. Who were you talking to? I asked. She looked at the counter, then at the mug in my hand, then at me. And that's when she said it. Don't come near me. Just like that. Like I was dangerous. Like I was the one lying. Like I was something she needed to escape from. I didn't argue. I didn't even blink. I turned, walked out the door, got in the car, and didn't stop driving until the clouds turned pink. No bag. No goodbye. Just the weight of her voice on loop in my head. That was 29 days ago. And now, she's unraveling. Calling people. Showing up at my sister's place unannounced. Leaving voice messages that start calm and end with her sobbing. I haven't answered a single one, but I've kept them all. Because part of me needs to understand what happened. And the other part? The part that's still replaying those 4 words. Don't come near me? That part wants to watch her fall apart. I didn't plan to disappear. That morning, after she told me not to come near her, I didn't have some big strategy. I didn't pack a bag with essentials or stash money in a secret account. I just drove. The mug of coffee sat in the cup holder, untouched, growing colder with every mile. My thoughts weren't even coherent. They were just flickers, static. A loop of her voice, that whisper that gutted me more than if she had screamed. Don't come near me. It played like a song stuck in my skull. I drove past exits I didn't recognize, past diners I used to stop at in college, past a gas station where a kid once washed my windshield for free and said I looked tired like dads do. That version of me, the guy with hope and a ring and a plan, he was gone before I crossed the state line. I ended up in a small town near the coast. Not planned. It was just the first place where my phone lost signal. It felt poetic in some backwards way. No bars. No notifications. No chance for her to reach me. I rented a cheap basement room from a widow who never asked questions. The place smelled like lavender and old wood, and the wallpaper was peeling behind the dresser. It was perfect. Quiet, like grief in physical form. I slept for 16 hours straight the first night, woke up sweating, heart pounding, convinced I'd dreamed it all. I reached for my phone. Still no signal. Still real. But the messages came eventually. Once I climbed a hill near the shoreline and the bars returned, it started like a slow drip. 1 missed call. Then 3. Then a voicemail from a number I didn't recognize, her mother's voice, trembling. Calvin, she's not doing well. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Not yet. I needed time. But the calls didn't stop. A few days later, another voicemail, her coworker this time. A guy named Trent I'd met once at her office holiday party. He said she hadn't shown up for work in a week. Said she cried in the hallway 2 Fridays ago and had to be escorted home. Said she mentioned me. That she regretted something. That she was scared I'd vanished. Then came the one that shifted something inside me, not enough to call her, but enough to stop me from sleeping. Her sister left a message late one night. I listened to it while walking back from a diner with a styrofoam cup of soup in one hand. Her voice was panicked, desperate. Cal, she's losing it. I don't know what happened, but she told me you found out something. She said you were behind the door. That you heard. Calvin, I don't know what she meant, but she said she sees you everywhere. In the hallway. On the stairs. In her dreams. She says she hears the door closing over and over again. You need to talk to her. Please. I froze right there on the sidewalk. Cars passed. A dog barked in the distance. I just stood there, soup cooling in my hand. That last sentence echoed in my head. She sees you everywhere. I'd been gone for less than a month. Not a year. Not a lifetime. But already, the life I left behind was folding in on itself. I wasn't even sure why yet. Was it guilt? Regret? Or something else? The way she looked at me that morning, not like someone caught, but like someone cornered, it still didn't make sense. That's when I decided to return. Not to stay. Not to forgive. But to understand. I needed to look her in the eyes one more time. I needed to know what she was hiding behind those 4 words. Because something told me that "don't come near me" wasn't just about me. It was about something she did. Or worse, something she was still doing. I drove back into town on a rainy Thursday. The same road that used to feel like home now looked like a stranger's face, familiar but wrong. The trees lining our street had bloomed early this year, pink petals clinging to branches like they didn't know the storm was coming. I pulled into the driveway slowly, headlights catching on the garage door. For a second, I expected it to lift automatically. Reflex. Habit. But of course, I didn't have the remote anymore. I didn't have anything anymore. When I walked up to the front door, the first sign something was off hit me like a slap. The lock was changed. My key didn't fit. Not even close. I tried twice. Then again, just to be sure. But no, the door rejected me as firmly as she had with those 4 words. I stood there for a minute, dripping, staring at the doorknob like it owed me an explanation. That house wasn't just bricks and wood. I built our patio. I planted the hydrangeas she never watered. I installed that damn doorbell that used to chime with a little melody we both found annoying but couldn't figure out how to change. Now I couldn't even get inside. I rang the bell. Once. Twice. Nothing. I knocked. Not hard, just enough to be heard. Then again. The porch light flickered on automatically. I waited. The neighborhood was too quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you feel like you're trespassing in your own life. And then the curtain moved. Just barely. The edge of the living room window fluttered, like someone had peeked. I stepped closer, hand pressed against the wet glass. I saw her silhouette, just for a second. Not full on, just the shape of her. She was thinner, hair longer, slouched. She didn't move, didn't open the door. She just stood there, barely visible, like a memory trying to fade. "Lorna," I said. My voice was hoarse. "I just want to talk." Still, she didn't move. But something happened that made my stomach turn. Her hand reached up toward her chest, like she was gripping something. Not a phone, not jewelry, just her shirt. Clutching it, trembling. "Why did you change the lock?" I asked louder now. "Why are you hiding?" No response. Just rain. And that same static buzz I'd been carrying with me since the day I left. Then, from somewhere inside, I couldn't tell if it was her or not, came a sound. A sob? A laugh. It was too quick to place, but it was sharp and cracked and real. Something raw was unraveling in that house. I stepped back. I didn't want to scare her. I wasn't there for drama. I just needed answers. But clearly, she wasn't ready to give them. So I turned, walked back to the car. I was halfway down the driveway when I heard the door unlock. Not open, just unlock. Like she wanted me to know something. That I could have come in if I really wanted to. That the lock wasn't the only thing that had changed. But I didn't go back. Not yet. I needed clarity. I needed facts. I needed someone who wasn't breaking down in a house filled with lies. So I drove to the only place I thought might help me piece it together. Her work. Or more specifically, the one man who kept calling me, Trent. He had left one final voicemail earlier that week. One I hadn't listened to yet. Now I was ready. What I didn't know then was that Trent had seen something. Something that happened the day before I caught her whispering on the phone. Something she begged him to forget. And once he told me what it was, I realized I had no idea who I was married to. I didn't call ahead. I just showed up. Trent worked in a glass office building wedged between a community college and a taco place that smelled like burnt cheese. I parked around the side, walked in soaked from rain, and asked the receptionist for him. She gave me a look like she was trying to place me, then just nodded and motioned toward the elevator. He was waiting when the doors opened. Like he knew I'd come eventually. "Cal," he said, nervous. His hands were in his pockets, shoulders hunched like someone expecting a punch. We stood in awkward silence for a second. Then he gestured for me to follow him down the hallway. I didn't remember much about the place, just that it was cold and overly lit, rows of cubicles, identical framed photos of waves and lighthouses, and the same scent of copy toner and bad coffee. But as we passed the break room, Trent veered off course. Not toward the main offices, but to a side door marked storage/IT access only. Why here? I asked. He glanced around, then unlocked the door with a badge and slipped inside. I didn't want to talk out there. Too many years. I stepped in behind him and froze. The room wasn't storage. Not really. It was a small, windowless control room filled with monitors, security feeds, server diagnostics, employee logs. A few of the monitors were dark, but two were on. He pointed to one in the corner. This is from 3 Mondays ago, he said. The day before everything happened. The footage was grainy, black and white. It showed the elevator lobby just outside the 5th floor, Lorna's department. At first, it was uneventful. A man in a delivery uniform entered, checked his phone, then exited. A woman picked something up off the floor and left. Then, Lorna. She stepped into frame slowly, hair tied back, jacket clutched in her hands like a security blanket. She looked disoriented, like she'd been crying or hadn't slept. She was talking to someone just off screen. Then she moved forward, stepped close to the wall, and leaned against it like she was about to collapse. The person she was talking to stepped into frame. It was another employee. I recognized him vaguely. Tall, wore headphones constantly. I think his name was Marcus. He looked scared. Really scared. His hands were raised slightly, palms out, like he was trying to calm her down. She grabbed him by the collar. Not angrily, desperately. She was mouthing something fast, like she was begging. Then she looked around quickly, pulled something out of her jacket, shoved it into his hands, and walked away. What did she give him? I asked. Trent shook his head. That's the thing. No one knows. Marcus quit the next day. No notice. He just emailed HR at 3 a.m. and vanished. Never came back for his things. We thought maybe it was personal, but he trailed off. You said she told you not to come near her? I nodded slowly. He looked pale. I think someone's watching her, or following her, or blackmailing her. Something's wrong, man. I know she lied to you, but this feels bigger than just cheating. She's unraveling because something's closing in. My throat went dry. Trent pulled out his phone and opened an email. This came in from her inbox yesterday morning. Sent to our department. It was disturbing. He showed me the screen. Subject, I'm sorry. Message, none of you will understand why I did what I did. I hope someday you will. I didn't have a choice. I was trying to protect him. Please don't hate me. My knees almost buckled. She sent that at 3:47 a.m., Trent said quietly. Then she no-showed again. Her office is locked. I'm pretty sure she hasn't been home since Monday. Have you talked to her? I swallowed hard. No. She unlocked the door when I showed up, but didn't speak. Just stood behind the curtain. He gave me a long look. You think she's still there? I don't know, but I had to find out. Because now, the voice in my head wasn't repeating, "Don't come near me." It was whispering something else. What if she was never scared of you at all? What if she was scared for you? And for the first time since I left. I felt afraid too. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my car outside the office park for hours, watching the lights inside shut off one by one. Trent left around midnight without saying anything else. I think he knew I wasn't okay. I didn't even try to hide it. I was gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles cracked, my breath fogging the glass in front of me. The whole time, my mind spun through everything: Marcus quitting, Lorna clutching the wall, that email. I was trying to protect him. Who? Me? She had flinched when I came near her. Changed the locks. Disappeared from work. But now it was obvious. She wasn't hiding from me. She was hiding from something else, something I hadn't yet seen. By dawn, I'd made a decision. I had no legal right to break into my old house, but something inside me said you don't need permission to protect yourself. If she left anything behind that could explain what was going on, I had to find it. I needed to step back into the house not as a husband trying to fix something broken, but as someone trying to understand what they had survived. I parked down the street, waited until the neighbors went to work. The back fence still had the loose plank near the rose bush that I'd never gotten around to fixing. I slipped through it like a shadow. The backyard was overgrown. The bird feeder hung crooked, untouched. Murphy's old chew toy was half buried in mud. That sight hit me like a brick. I didn't even know where the dog had ended up after I left. I reached the rear sliding door and hesitated. The curtains were drawn. The patio chairs were flipped over. The wind had left dried leaves gathered along the glass. I gently tried the handle. Unlocked. She had left it open. I stepped inside and was hit by a wall of silence so thick I could hear the buzz of the refrigerator from across the room. The kitchen was nearly untouched. Dishes stacked neatly. Mail unopened. But something was wrong. The air felt stale, like no one had truly lived there in days. I moved slowly, checking every room like I was entering a crime scene. Upstairs, the bedroom was exactly as we'd left it before the final fight. My pillow was still indented. Her vanity was spotless. And then I saw it. Her journal. It was under the bed, barely sticking out. Lorna hadn't kept a journal in years. Or so I thought. I pulled it free, heart racing, and flipped it open. Every page was filled. Tight handwriting. Scrambled thoughts. Dates and names. Some were crossed out violently. One section repeated the same line 5 times in a row. He can't know. If he knows, they'll hurt him. I sat down on the edge of the bed, eyes scanning faster now. I found another entry dated a week before I left. Marcus said they found out. He was right. The USB was a mistake. I thought I wiped it. I thought I did everything right. But they called again. No number. Just a voice. Said I had until Friday. I think they're watching the house. I think they bugged the office. Calvin's too close. I need to push him away. I hate it. I hate it. But if he stays, he dies. My hands went cold. I closed the book. For a moment, I didn't move. Then I heard a sound from the hallway. A soft creak. Floorboard pressure. Not a memory. Not a hallucination. Someone was in the house. I moved quickly and quietly to the door, cracked it open. The hall was empty. But something had shifted downstairs. The living room curtain was swaying like it had been touched. I tiptoed down, ears straining. Nothing. But when I got to the living room, I noticed something I hadn't before. The TV console had been moved slightly, one side pulled away from the wall. There was dust disturbed behind it. I reached behind, expecting maybe a dropped remote or a forgotten photo. Instead, my fingers hit wood. A hidden drawer. It wasn't part of the console's original design. I'd assembled the damn thing myself. I tugged it carefully. It clicked open, revealing a flash drive taped to the inside wall. Plain. Unmarked. New. I grabbed it and bolted for the back door. I didn't wait to see if someone followed. I drove until I found a gas station with Wi-Fi, parked behind a dumpster, and plugged the drive into my laptop. It had one folder, titled only, vid_do not copy. Inside were 2 files, one password protected, the other open. I clicked it, and what I saw in that video changed everything I thought I knew about Lorna, and about myself. The video started with static, just a flicker of gray and black snow, accompanied by that low, humming distortion that made my shoulders tense. Then it cut to color, dim and grainy, like footage taken from an old security camera or a phone duct taped to a wall. The frame was crooked. It faced what looked like a dingy hotel room. Faded wallpaper. Yellow light from a single lamp. No windows. The kind of place where people went to disappear. At first, it was empty. Just silence. Then the door creaked open, and Lorna stepped into the shot. But this wasn't the Lorna I remembered. Not even close. Her hair was tied in a rushed bun. Her eyes were swollen, like she'd been crying for hours. Her arms wrapped around herself like she was holding in a scream. She moved like she didn't know the camera was there. Or maybe she did, and didn't care anymore. She sat on the edge of the bed. The mattress sagged beneath her like it was rotting inside. For a few seconds, she just stared at the floor. Then she looked directly into the lens. And spoke. "If you're seeing this," she began, her voice trembling but steady. Then I either found the courage to send it, or something happened to me before I could. I froze. My hands hovered above the keyboard, but I couldn't pause. I couldn't look away. "I made a mistake," she continued. "Not with you, Calvin. With them. I was trying to help someone. Someone I thought I could trust. And I got dragged into something bigger than I understood." She swallowed hard. "I didn't cheat. I need you to believe that. I know what it looked like. I know what I said to you. That was to protect you. I had to make you leave. They threatened you. They said if I didn't give them what they wanted, they'd come after you. So I did it. I pushed you away. I lied. I let you think I didn't love you anymore." She shook her head slowly, biting her lip until it bled. "There's a man named Elliot. That's all I'll say in this file. You'll know who he is soon. He pretends to work for a nonprofit. He doesn't. He's the one who pulled me in. Said it was harmless. Said it was just information gathering. But it wasn't. It never was. I think he used me to get to someone else." Lorna suddenly stood up and stepped out of frame. Her voice continued off camera. "There's another file on this drive. Password protected. The password is the nickname you used to call me after our first trip to Oregon. If you remember it, you'll get everything. The names. The footage. The real story. The sound of her pacing, breathing. She came back into view, leaned closer to the camera, and whispered something I'll never forget for as long as I live. If I disappear, don't come looking for me. But if I'm still alive, and you open that folder, come get me. The screen went black. That was it. I sat there in the car, heart pounding so loud it drowned out the sound of the rain on the windshield. My mouth was dry. My fingers hovered over the laptop keyboard, but I didn't type. Not yet. Because I couldn't remember the nickname. Not in that moment. Not with my mind in pieces. Oregon. We'd gone there 10 years ago. It rained the whole time. We got lost in a forest, laughed until we cried, and stayed in a B&B with a broken fireplace. What did I call her? It wasn't babe. It wasn't sweetheart. It was something weird. A joke we'd made after the road trip. Something to do with the cabin. The coffee. I closed my eyes and tried to breathe. The password was the key to everything. The real footage. The truth. Maybe even the reason Marcus vanished. Maybe even where Lorna was now. And if I didn't remember it in time, I might never see her again. That was when I heard the knock. 3 sharp taps on the driver's side window. I jumped so hard the laptop slid off my lap and onto the floor. My head turned fast, and my stomach dropped through the floor. It wasn't a cop. It wasn't a stranger. It was Elliot. I'd never met him before. Never seen a photo. But the second I saw his face, I knew. Because he smiled like someone who already knew I'd seen the video. And that meant the countdown had already started. He didn't knock again. Elliot just stood there, staring through the fogged-up glass with that twisted, crooked smile like he'd rehearsed it in a mirror. No umbrella. No jacket. His shirt was soaked and clung to his chest, but he looked completely at ease, like this was just another meeting in a long line of scheduled destruction. My hand hovered over the ignition. Every instinct told me to turn the key, peel out, don't look back. But I didn't move. Something about the way he stood there, hands folded like a priest at confession, told me that if I ran now, it wouldn't matter. He'd find me again. And next time, it wouldn't be a knock. It would be something worse. I rolled the window down halfway. The rain blew in, cold and sharp against my face. Who the hell are you? I asked. He leaned forward slightly, his voice calm, almost amused. You already know. I glanced down at the flash drive still plugged into my laptop, then back at him. You've been watching her. Threatening her. Why? Elliot raised a brow. You think this is about her? She was just in the way. It's always been about you, Calvin. My skin went cold. He stepped back and gestured toward the passenger seat. Mind if we talk inside? Too wet to stand. I hesitated. My fingers clenched the wheel hard enough to hurt. But I let him in. He slid into the seat with the poise of someone who never questioned whether doors would open for him. He smelled like mint and rain-soaked paper. And he didn't take his eyes off me, not once. You don't know what she got herself into, he said, brushing water off his sleeves. She thought she could outsmart people who were already 3 moves ahead. That USB? She was never supposed to have it. Marcus gave her access she wasn't cleared for, and when she panicked, she turned it into something noble. Protecting you. He chuckled. As if she mattered. I didn't speak. My jaw was tight. My pulse thudded in my ears. She never told you the full story, did she? He asked. Didn't tell you that you were the reason she got involved at all. That hit like a punch to the chest. What are you talking about? She accessed your files, he said. 2 years ago. Company archives. Financials. Something she thought looked off. You left your laptop open, and she saw something she shouldn't have. Then she brought it to us. Thought she was doing the right thing. I shook my head slowly. I've never. Yes, you have, he interrupted. Not on purpose. But you were part of something bigger. A contract buried under layers of bureaucracy. Old money. Old secrets. You signed something years ago. Lorna found it. And instead of coming to you, she came to me. He smiled again. She thought I was her friend. I swallowed hard, my voice barely above a whisper. Where is she now? Elliot looked away for the first time. Gone. That word slammed into my chest like a freight train. Gone where? He didn't answer. Just stared at the dashboard like he was waiting for something. A signal. A clock to hit 0. I don't believe you, I said. She sent me a video. Told me to find her. Did she? He said softly. Or did she send you a goodbye? Silence. Then, almost too casually, he said, she used to call you something, didn't she? After that trip you two took. The little nickname. The password. My blood turned ice. He knew about the second file. The password. The folder I hadn't unlocked yet. That meant he either had access, or he needed me to open it. She didn't trust you, I said, watching him carefully. She warned me. Told me not to come looking unless I was ready. He leaned in, voice low and deliberate. And are you? I stared at him, every fiber in my body screaming not to say a word. But I had to keep him talking. Had to buy time to think. My mind worked overtime, trying to remember that nickname. Something from Oregon. The coffee. That stupid cafe we joked about. And then it hit me. I turned the laptop slightly, typing quickly while keeping him in my peripheral vision. The password, bcabin42. The folder opened instantly. Inside were dozens of files. Videos, PDFs, photos, names, dates, surveillance records, most marked with a red tag, confidential. Some were labeled with my name. My real name, not Calvin. The name I hadn't used since I left my old life behind. The one connected to a project I worked on 10 years ago and had signed an NDA to never discuss again. Elliot saw the screen. His smile slipped for the first time. You shouldn't have opened that, he said. And suddenly, the rain stopped. The air went still, and a van pulled into the parking lot behind us. Its windows were blacked out. No plates. And that's when I knew we were never alone. I didn't wait for him to speak. The moment the van pulled in, my foot slammed the accelerator and we shot forward, tires screaming on the wet pavement. Elliot lurched in the passenger seat, catching himself against the dashboard, shouting something I didn't care to hear. All I knew was that I had to get out of that parking lot and away from whoever was in that van. But this wasn't panic. Not anymore. This was clarity. Cold, focused clarity. The truth was in my hands now, in the files, in the footage, and Lorna's voice still echoing in my ears. She hadn't betrayed me. She'd risked everything to keep me alive. And now it was my turn to do the same for her. We barreled through a red light, tires screeching. Elliot shouted at me to pull over, voice tightening with something that sounded less like command and more like fear. I glanced at him. The mask had slipped. He wasn't in control anymore, and he knew it. You don't have to do this, he said, voice low. You open the rest of those files, you're putting more than yourself at risk. I smiled grimly. You should have thought of that before threatening my wife. I swerved onto the highway, merging into traffic, and headed straight for the one place I never thought I'd go again, a safe house I'd used years ago, back when I still worked in defense contracting. A small cabin in the woods, buried beneath years of dust and disuse, but still wired to a secure satellite system. I made one call, just one, to an old contact who owed me more than a few favors. Told him I was uploading files with hard proof of classified interference, manipulation, and blackmail. Names, receipts, everything. If anything happens to me, I said, release them. He didn't even ask questions. I ditched the car outside city limits. Left Elliot locked in the trunk. He'd wake up eventually. I hadn't hurt him. Just gave him enough sedative to keep him quiet long enough for me to disappear. Then I hiked into the trees. 3 hours later, the upload was complete. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't spite. It was exposure. The kind that couldn't be swept under a rug. And then I did the only thing that really mattered. I found her. Not in some underground bunker or high-security building. She was in a rehab center in Northern California, checked in under an alias. Her sister helped me track her down. When I walked into the lobby, I expected resistance. Guards. Barriers. But she was waiting. She stood up slowly, thinner than I remembered, eyes weary and tired, but alive. Still her. Still Lorna. I thought you were gone, she whispered. I stepped closer, no fear in my chest this time. You told me not to come near you. I had to. I know, I said. I watched the video. Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't cry. Not yet. She just nodded. And then she reached for me. Her hand was shaking. I'm sorry, she said. For everything. I took her hand and held it against my chest. We lived through it, I said. And we did. It didn't happen overnight. Trust doesn't regrow in a day. There were long silences. Therapy sessions. Legal battles. But slowly, we rebuilt. We moved out of state. Changed our names again. Started a new life, this time not as people hiding from danger, but as people who had survived it together. Sometimes she still wakes up gasping. Sometimes I still hear Elliot's voice when I close my eyes. But those moments pass. Now, we sit on the porch in the evenings, drinking coffee from mismatched mugs, watching the trees sway. No secrets. No lies. Just quiet. Just peace. We earned it. And we never let go again.